Welcome back to part 15 of the Markidini crochet along. This week we're going to be working on top of part 13, making blocks 57, 58, 59, and 60. So when working the large blanket, you will want to count over 30 loops from your last vertical line on the side by block 29 and working on top of blocks 50 and 52. Okay, so remember my piece looks a little bit different as I'm just showing you the stitches now and not having a full-size blanket sample. But from your vertical line beside block 29, you will count over across block 50 and 52, 30 loops and mark that. And then you would count 4 more loops over and place a second marker for the next vertical line. And then once you have that ready, you can join in back and pick up the 30 loops across and make your connection for 32 loops on your hook and do the regular return pass to start block 57. So block 57 will be working these diamond shapes for the stitch pattern. This block will be using knit stitches and reverse stitches. So you have worked the foundation row already. You will work a row of knit stitches for row 2, regular return pass, and then starting at row 3, you just need to count how many reverse or knit stitches you're making in each row, regular return pass. So you can go ahead and work all 12 rows of this pattern and plus do the bind off row at the end of this block. Block 58 uses some cable stitches again, some 2-togethers and a few different stitches, so I'll help you with a few rows of this block. So you'll make that horizontal line again, picking up the 30 loops, the 32 loops on your hook and making 3 rows and do a bind off. So before working block 58, you're going to count over 13 loops and mark it, and then count over 4 more and mark the 17th loop. So for block 58, we will join in back of our first marker, pick up the 13 loops across, make our connection for 15 loops on the hook, and do the regular return pass. Then follow the chart for the second row. We'll start with a purl stitch, 5 knit, a purl, 5 knit, and a purl before we make our connection. And then we need to watch where we are working these 2-together stitches. So the one that is leaning this way, we will make the 2 together and a chain, and the one leaning the other direction will chain first and 2 together. So as we work our return pass, we'll pull off 2 loops and then do a 2 together, chain 1, pull off a loop, and so on. So I'll help you work the return pass for row 2. So we pull off our connection loop and the first loop. We'll work the 2 together and then a chain 1. We'll pull off the next stitch, then we'll chain 1 and work 2 together and pull off the next stitch. 2 together, chain 1, pull off the next stitch, chain 1, 2 together, and then pull off the last 2 stitches. And then working row 3, we'll start with a purl stitch, and we need to insert our hook under both loops of that 2 together. In the chain 1 space, we pull up a loop and knit stitch in the next stitch. Chain 1 space, pull up a loop under both loops of the 2 together and purl stitch in the next. Then we'll repeat that again, under the 2 together, in the chain space, knit stitch in the chain space, under the 2 together, and purl in the last stitch before we make our connection. Then this row is regular return pass. And then row 4, we're going to make some of these cable stitches. Remember, the red ones, we want them to lean to the right, and the blue ones will lean to the left. So I will help you with row 4, so we'll get started with that. Purl stitch the first stitch, and then we'll knit stitch the next 2, and this is our first cable. We want it to lean to the right, so we'll remove those 2. We'll put the first stitch to the back, put the knit stitch back on, cross that other knit stitch behind. We'll knit in the next. Then we'll knit in the next 2, and this cable we want to go the other way, so we'll put that first knit stitch to the front, put the other loop back on, and cross that next loop. Purl stitch. Knit in the next 2, lean to the right, so we put that 1 stitch to the back, put the loop back on, cross the stitches, knit in the next, knit in the next 2, remove them from the hook, going to the left this time so the stitch falls to the front before we cross it, purl in the last stitch, make our connection for 15 loops on our hook. We've worked the cables. Now I recommend doing the cables in the forward pass when you're doing the 1 over 1. It makes it a little bit more simplified. Regular return pass for that row, and then it will just be a repeat of that pattern where we have our 2 together, we work our knit stitches, and then the return pass, we work our 2 together, picking up those loops, regular return pass, and then working the set of cables, and so on. So you can go ahead and work all 27 rows for this block and doing the bind off as well. When you have finished block 58, you will want to come back down and join behind that second marker and working in front of the bind off stitches, picking up the 4 loops and making 27 rows for the vertical line. Do not bind off. So for block 59, you will just join to the edge of block 57, pick up the 13 loops and make your connection for 15 loops on your hook. And then you will just follow the chart, making cables again. It's 2 over 2 cables, so just remember the purl stitches fall to the back, the knit stitches go to the front when you're crossing these cables. And you can go ahead and work all 27 rows for block 59 and do the bind off. At the end of block 59, you're going to want to come down and to the far edge, down by block 57 to that second marker we made there, and you will attach, working over the bind off stitches. You'll pick up the 4 loops for the vertical line. You'll work the vertical line up beside block 57 and the 3 rows of the horizontal line, and then also working up the vertical line by block 59, and then continuing right across and picking up the loops all the way across to make the horizontal line on top of blocks 58 and 59. So you make a vertical line and a horizontal line. Then I'll meet you here to start block 60. So for this week, our final block makes this lovely butterfly. So we'll join, as you can see, to the top of the block we just previously worked. So counting over to the 5th loop and joining back, and we'll pick up 30 loops across, make our connection for 32 loops on our hook. As you can see from this chart, we work a lot of TSS rows at the beginning, 4 rows of TSS with regular return pass, and then we start into the butterfly diagrams with a purl and a knit stitch and crossing those 2 for a small cable, just as we did in a previous block, only this time one is a purl and one is a knit, so the purl will fall to the back, the knit to the front to help you cross that in the right direction. So again, just follow the chart for the 27 rows to make this lovely butterfly pattern. Once you have finished block 60, you will again want to make the vertical line reaching over top of the bind off row from a previous horizontal line, picking up the 4 loops, making the 27 rows for the vertical line, and working a horizontal line across the top and binding off. And that will complete week 15.